Welcome to Executing the Vision podcast. I'm your host, Brad Hunter, president of Emerge Labs. On the podcast, we'll get to know the person behind the vision, their successes, their challenges, and their plans for the future. If you're interested in becoming a guest or know someone who might be a good fit, stick around to the end and we'll discuss how to apply. Now, enjoy the show. Everyone, welcome to another edition of Executing the Vision. I'm your host, Brad Hunter, and today I've got Brent Eck, the founder of countless companies in the healthcare space. And so I'll let you kind of take over from here and walk us through your journey a little bit.
I've been sort of leading businesses around nutrition and healthcare for the last 20 plus years around the world. Kind of most recently, I'm working on an app with a couple other co-founders. Came out of actually one of my annual physicals, right? So you go to your physical, you go to your doctor, he draws blood and he says, if something's wrong, I'll call you in a couple months. And I just thought to myself, well, I'm, getting up there. I'm not a young man anymore. And I'm kind of at the point in my life where, I'd like a little bit more than that, right? I'd like to know, did you actually ask for the right biomarkers to be looked at? How do I take those biomarkers and actually do something with them and live a healthier and more fulfilling life? I think it was George Bush who says, I want to kind of die fast as late as possible. You kind of want it to be a sine wave, right? You kind of want to live as long as you can, and when it's time for it to be over, you want it to be over as quickly as humanly possible, right? Or a square wave, not a sine wave, right? So that's really the journey that I've been on with Sage, is really, go through and think about sort of what are the things that kill most people, and how do I keep those things from killing me? There's a little bit of a backwards way to look at it, but that's the essential of what we're trying to do at Sage. I've been connected with healthcare and nutrition for 20 years. So I started my career working for a German pharmaceutical company that did sort of hospital-based clinical nutrition, so all the intravenous nutrition and oral nutrition there, and then ran a business called Metagenics for 8 years. CEO there. It was a great business, about $400 million in revenue globally in 40 markets around the world. And it was a privilege to run Metagenics. It was a company that was started by the same guys that started the whole functional medicine movement, right? Guys like Jeff Bland and Mark Hyman and David Perlmutter, like all these guys that are doing all this great stuff in functional medicine. They were all wrapped up with Metagenics for years and years and years too. So really a cool business to be running for a bunch of years, and kind of when that period was over, just started my own thing. So that's kind of the journey, so to speak.
Well, what's the timeline from when you're sitting in the office and this idea kind of dawns on you that the current system is terrible, I need to do something different, to where we are today?
I mean, in different ways and forms, probably a decade. And it's kind of started in fits and starts. I would say when I was at Metagenics, part of what we were trying to do was really do that kind of within the healthcare system, if I could call it that way. So sort of give doctors who kind of want to do personalized and precision medicine new tools to be able to do it. So we did that for 8 years at Metagenics. We're building all those tools for doctors, and it's nutrition products, but it was also software and protocols and different things that they could use to help their patients on their journey. And kind of, as time evolved, it really became, okay, well, actually, let's go head on here. And so that's the approach we've been taking probably for the last 18 months or so with Sage. It's really only been around for that long. And it's really a more direct approach. We're not sort of trying to work through the system. Now we're kind of working directly with consumers and sort of, help consumers on that journey themselves. And, there's a lot of different moments along the way that were inspiring. Probably reading a book by a guy by Eric Topol, or sort of listening to Peter Attia's podcast, where you realize people or consumers today, certainly Americans, are much more interested in directly engaging in their own healthcare and finding a new sense of health autonomy. Like, I want to be in control of my own health. I don't want to delegate that to my doctor. Certainly, I mean, I don't know what the situation is with your parents, but I always talk to my mom, hey mom, why are you doing this now? Well, my doctor told me. Well, is that the right thing to do? Is that the wrong thing to do? I don't know. My doctor told me. My mom has completely delegated her health to the doctor.
Yeah.
Isn't that generation? It's kind of like, no, I want to be in control of my own health. I want to have a say for where I'm going.
Yeah, which to me, it's very interesting, because for sure, that's how I was raised. I mean, that's how it was for years. I mean, I'm trying to think for me when that click occurred, right? Because forever it was just like, go to the doctor. Don't even think to ask that many questions. You just assume that they're going to tell you all the relevant information you need to know and blah, blah, blah. And then I'd say for me, I feel like the past 5, maybe 10 Years, I guess for me, it probably came more around. I tend to get a ton of skin cancer, like basal cell, harmless, whatever. And it was probably my first moment was just constantly going back to the dermatologist and like, is there anything else I could be doing? No, you just got to come and we got to, take it and cut it and blah, blah, blah and stitch it. And like, man, really, that's the only, yeah, that's it. That's the only option.
I'm the same way. Like every time I see the dermatologist, I walk out a few $1,000s lighter in my pocket, right? Because I got 6 things they want to cut out of me and test. And, I go in there and I get the scan and maybe sometimes I get the same person like looking at me. Maybe it's a different person. They're looking at me and, sometimes, get a little bit personal here, but like it's a very thorough exam and sometimes it's a less thorough exam. And if it's a less thorough exam, what does that mean? Are they good? Are they bad? You have the reflection, like how good are you on your best day and how good are you on your worst day? What's the dynamic range between what you can accomplish as an individual? Like when you've slept really well the night before, you've been eating the right things, you've been exercising versus like, I don't know, it's holiday season, you've gone to a few too many Christmas parties, whatever else, like that dynamic range is massive. Now, like apply that thinking to your doctor. What doctor are you getting that day? Like when you go into the dermatologist, are you getting your doctor, him or her on her best day or not? Or even getting your doctor, are you getting a PA and are they having their best day?
Right.
And it's like, how do you create tools that help folks like this always have their best day? And you talked about like the moment clicking, and I would say, at least for me, it's still clicking. Like it's one of those things, the more you start pulling the string on this, the more it unravels. And you start getting, new insights every single day. What can you do in healthcare to feel more empowerment and to really help, make sure your doctor's always making the best decisions? Now, I know that when I have a great day, it's unbelievable what I can accomplish and how I can see around corners. And if I'm having a bad day, it's unbelievable how unproductive I can be, how many mistakes I can make. And I just hate to think about that with the doctor. I'll never forget getting like an 88% on a math test when I was in like 5th grade. And Mr. Bridges, my math teacher, I looked at him, I go, that's not bad. 88%. He goes, I hope you never have open heart surgery and say that to your doctor. You don't want them doing an 88% job on your heart. I'll never forget that moment. Having a beer with a friend the other day, and he said, yeah, I'm in my 40s now and had the same experience you just talked about. I got my blood drawn when I saw my doctor, and a few things came back a few weeks later and they were in the yellow and my doctor didn't call me. And I thought to myself, well, am I going to die? What's going to happen here? He didn't even go down the rabbit hole I brought him down originally, which was to say, well, do you even know your doctor asked for the right things? What if there's things that are yellow or red that he didn't even ask to test? That's part of the journey we're all on. What we're trying to do in this business at Sage is help you understand everything. You take the steps that your doctor doesn't have the time to take you down. And then also just make sure you're not missing anything. And that's really the essence of what we're trying to accomplish at Sage.
The more and more, I visit the doctor with having this kind of new perspective, the more I firmly believe the doctors they're in their little niche and they've been doing what they've been doing and they're not even interested in new information. Because I listen to now a lot of podcasts and stuff and Huberman and whatever, right? There's a lot of content out there. And if you start paying attention to health stuff, you get fed a lot of content. And not all of it's 100% accurate, but there's a lot of stuff out there. And I mentioned some of these things to the doctors and like, never heard of it. It's like something that like I've heard on 4 different podcasts and, read different studies that like this thing, that thing. And they just don't even like, nah, I don't really even know about that. What you guys are doing and building is very much so needed. And what I'm also very curious about then is tell me the AI portion of this whole thing. Where is that involved in the business?
It started with just using machine learning to sort of pull the first place we used it was like, I've got a bunch of old blood labs actually sitting on paper in a spiral notebook from a doctor I saw in 2008, 2010. And it's like, okay, it's sitting in that spiral notebook. I don't know if it's doing any good. And then when I get a new blood lab taken, what's changed over the past year? Like my testosterone is not really high right now. It's not really low. It's kind of in the middle. Is that a problem? Is that not a problem? Well, it depends. Where was it when I was 25? Has it changed dramatically since then? I actually have those papers. I have that data, but the answer to that question is really hard to go find. So we started using AI to say, okay, like how can I take a picture of that with my iPhone of that old test from 2010, scan that data into the phone and actually like turn it into structured data so that I can compare it to the stuff I've been doing in more recently, right? So it started there and it's just getting more and more sophisticated. So now like we've built a whole set of content around the top 500 most common lab tests that you can get. And we're using AI now. It's like a mini large language model. And then it'll help like summarize the labs that you have and what's changing and what's happening. And actually the latest feature that will be coming out in the next month or so is using AI to actually send an email to your doctor. And what the AI will do is it'll summarize all of the blood blood labs you've had over time, show the trends, and then come up with 10 really relevant questions you should be asking your doctor, and your doctor should be able to answer for you. All these really interesting, innovative places where AI can go. Like you mentioned seeing the dermatologist. We're working right now too on actually doing skin exams, because I'm the same way as you. Like I'm constantly at the dermatologist, and the freckles and moles and God knows whatever I have all over my body, they're moving targets. They're all over the place. And so we're building features where you can scan different parts of your body that you're concerned with, and maybe go scan once a month or once a week, and you can see how the things are evolving over time. Because to be honest, that's actually what matters. Is this mole, is this freckle, is this blemish, is whatever, is it changing? Is it moving around? And then we can use AI to track that and see if that's a concern. We can use AI to look at sort of common nutritional deficiencies and excesses you may have that can like manifest the way your nails are growing and the way your hair is changing. I mean, you can do phenomenal things with AI.
And I love the idea of how you're talking about training your own models. That's where I've really been diving deep and kind of exploring. I'm starting to create one for myself. I just, I'm working with a company now, and we're uploading all of my everything, right? All the podcasts, all this, all that, and training one for myself. And when you really spend time in that space and really start to understand what it can do, it's mind blowing. The basic stuff is really mind blowing. How even just working with Chat GPT on things, how it can accomplish what a room full of people couldn't do in weeks. It can
Yep.
instantly go out and scan the internet for whatever specific thing and come back with all of this actionable, relevant steps and everything.
Be more aggressive too. Like we've tried to use some of like the Chat GPTs or some of the big LLMs, just like use that as the data set rather than kind of build our own model. It's awesome and incredibly powerful. It's just not yet precise enough to do with healthcare, I would say. And so that's what made us concerned. And that was sort of the impetus behind let's actually train our own, because we can narrow its scope to content that we're sure is precise and accurate, so that we're not feeding you a crazy hallucination about your own health, so to speak, by accident.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I feel like the more you really look at it and analyze it and how can it be implemented in different business models, if you really spend some time, it's very mind blowing to me what it's going to be doing in a very short amount of time.
I mean, in another 20 years, what is it going to look like as well, right? So it's the rate of change is accelerating, and I can't wait to see where it goes. It's certainly, in my life, like it's amazing how just using ChatGPT as like a brainstorming tool, like just this afternoon thinking about things to talk about here, and just using it as a brainstorming tool, it's like unbelievable how much access to knowledge you can get by just having a brief conversation with one of these LLMs.
I agree. I have some of the most interesting conversations with Chat GPT, and I've really started to transition over to where I don't really use Google as much anymore. Had read an article a week or two ago that was like, oh, AI is going to take over search engines. And it really hadn't dawned on me too much. And then all of a sudden I was like, yeah, it's interesting. Maybe I should. And it's like you start using it and interacting with it, and it just works better.
Interesting, like intellectual pivot of like asking specific questions and seeking an answer rather than just searching for broad-based information. And you
Yeah.
get broad-based information too, but it's I'm even seeing it with my kids that are starting to use these things a little bit, and they're natives at it, right? And so like that transition from I'm gonna go do a Google search and open up 20 websites in the background and then flip through them and look through them and synthesize the data versus like just give me the answer. It's a really interesting, different intellectual place to be.
Big changes coming down the pipe in healthcare.
Yeah,
What do
I mean,
you
I'll be really curious how that works. I'm definitely an optimist on that point of view. Certainly, you don't have to look very hard to find a bunch of really interesting business problems to solve in healthcare. That's one of the nice things about it. But there's also, you know, really interesting questions. I'm really curious how regulatory is going to speed things up or slow things down. Like, do we have the regulatory frameworks to really let these things happen? Right? Like, at what point do these LLMs become diagnostic tools that end up becoming medical devices? And then do you need to get them approved or not? I mean, it's really interesting to think about that way. Like, are our regulatory frameworks even ready to start thinking about this stuff? But there's certainly, it's not hard to find 100 different opportunities to think about. Ironically, like it's probably one of the places where AI has been around the longest is healthcare. right? In like radiology and helping radiologists look at X-rays. I mean, it's one of the places that it's been being used, or machine learning, I would say, has been used for years and years and years. So in some ways, it's the place where AI has gone the farthest, but in other places, it's in other ways, it's the place where AI still has the most to do.
So, what exactly stage are you in then with Sage? Can I sign up today?
You could, yeah, you could sign up today and you could scan in all your old blood tests, and we'll help you understand anything that you have there, anything that's out of range. We'll help you sort of consolidate all your old information and put it into one place. And then if you wanted to go out and buy a brand new comprehensive panel, or you could go do that, or maybe we'll notice that you are over X years old and you haven't had a PSA test done in a while, and it's probably about time to do that. We can help you do that, or maybe we'll notice that like, oh, your cholesterol's a little bit on the high side, but you've never gotten your ApoB tested, so maybe you should. We'll help you think through some of those things, I would say. Just make sure you know what you're looking at and you understand it. And so you could go do that today if you wanted to. We're really just in I would say, the early innings of this game. There's a lot of features coming out pretty quickly, and we have a very long roadmap of where we'd like to take it for sure. We know concierge medicine works, right? Functional medicine works, right? Personalized medicine, whatever you want to call it. All these monikers are essentially getting at the same thing, and it's synthesizing a lot of data about you to come up with really specific recommendations for you on things you can do to sort of optimize your health over the long term, right? That's what all these different things do. So ironically, like functional medicine, concierge medicine, like it solved the problem of how to look at you and figure out things that you can do to live your best life. It just doesn't work at scale yet, right? So it's a little bit like I can send an astronaut to outer space, right? That's a solved problem. The hard part is like, how do I send anybody that wants to go to space to space? And how do you build the infrastructure to actually make that happen? And that's a little bit like kind of how we think about Sage. We're certainly not building rocket ships, so I don't want to give us credit for that. But our goal is really to make what we know as sort of solved problems in concierge or functional and integrated medicine, and empower you as an individual to get that same level of care, hopefully at a fraction of the cost. Because actually, really, it's about how do you scale concierge medicine for anybody who's willing to go down that road. And so that's what we're trying to do at Sage. Right now, it's really around your blood labs and blood tests, but we're working really hard on skin, metabolic health. We'll look at your DNA eventually. So there's a number of things that we're going to do in the future. And our goal is really to make sort of your phone your concierge in your health, right? So it's pivoting from concierge medicine with a concierge medicine doctor to concierge medicine with your phone as the tool to help you on your health journey.
And where do things like sauna and ice bath and peptides and some of these alternatives, where do they kind of fall with Sage? Is that in the realm of recommendations? You look at the blood work and say, it might be great for you, as you should look at doing sauna. Are those things considered at all?
Totally. We're starting with the basics first. If you don't have your body composition under control, if you're not eating properly, if you're not exercising, like let's take care of those things, right? Those are the three things that are going to keep you living the longest, right? Make sure your calorie balance is taken care of, make sure you're exercising as much as possible. If you've got that dialed in and you want to take it to the next level, sauna, cold bath, supplements, all those things are on the table in the realm of possibility, right? But now you're really at the fine margins. You're not in the step change, the step function change. So I think our goal is to make sure you're doing the most important things first, right? If you're not exercising a few hours a week, if you don't have your sleep dialed in, if you're a stress basket, like let's focus on those things. Those are the things that are going to have the biggest incremental impact on your health span.
Could there be some sort of a thing where, okay, I've loaded my information and I know I'm not terribly healthy. I know I need to exercise more. I know I need to do this, that. Do you envision any sort of a thing where you're able to kind of connect with similar people, or, something like that, where it's like I can compare my progress with another group of peers' progress to help motivate me?
I mean, that's a super fun idea. I'll be honest, like I think that's a little bit the $64,000 question in a lot of these things is like, what is the right impetus to bring about the kind of behavior change that will help you be successful on your health journey, right? And I don't know if I have the exact answer to what that is. Is it a social aspect? Is it community? Is it, I don't know. I mean, there's a thousand ways to think about that and approach that. I don't have the perfect answer. I would certainly say that that is going to be a critical success factor long term for all of us who are trying to bring these concepts to broader to more and more people, right? Is how do you bake in the behavior change element, and what are the things that are going to have the single biggest impact there to help you and to help you on that journey? You know, is it the tiny habits model? Certainly spent a lot of time looking at and studying these things. Is it some kind of gamification? I don't have the right answer for you. I don't have the perfect answer for you, but it's certainly a place where we're killing a lot of brain cells trying to think through.
I absolutely love the whole concept. The space itself, how have you seen that general space itself grow the past couple of years?
Some of them really succeed. Some of them take off like rocket ships. Some of them, not do so well, right? So, in the last 10 years, I can probably rattle off 30 or 40 of them. It's certainly a busy ecosystem. And again, I'm not sure exactly if anybody's found the perfect business model yet, the perfect go-to-market yet. But I would say over time, these companies sort of indirectly interact with each other, right? Because you see who's doing what's working, what's not working, who's being successful, who's not being successful. How are you getting more consumers, right? How do you scale from the early adopter biohacker guys, right, which is sort of the natural place that you'd start one of these business models with, to sort of a broader mass appeal? Are we ever going to appeal to people like my mother? Is that even possible to get them, really feeling empowered towards taking control of their own health? Will that ever happen or not? Certainly the younger generation is more open to this sort of thing and more interested in engaging with it. A lot of it is like, what is the cultural milieu these businesses are working in? And are we as a society, like, are we more and more open to taking control of our own health? And as those sort of cultural leaps start happening, I think a place for Sage starts widening and starts opening up, for sure.
How are you guys reaching out to customers now?
We're early days, so I would say we're investing more in R&D than we are in marketing at this point. Pretty quickly, I'm going to have to change that. The goal is to start doing more and more. Certainly, like a number of healthcare professionals in the market today that are willing to talk about bringing tools like this to the folks that follow them. I think that's probably where we'll start first, with some of those sort of doctor influencer folks. But I think over time you'll see more and more people actually searching for us. There's far more consumers out there today that are functional medicine curious than there are functional medicine doctors to actually see all those patients. And so the question is, for those individuals that are like, okay, the current system isn't really working for me, or I keep bouncing from doctor to doctor to doctor to try to get an answer, and I'm not getting any answers that make sense to me. There's more and more of those individuals out there that the healthcare system really isn't providing the answers that they're looking for, because it just wasn't set up for the type of things that are concerning them. And I think in many ways folks will be coming to us. At least that's my hope. It's a little bit build it and they will come. Never really works out that easily, but certainly, when I'm sitting around talking to my social network about the type of tools that we're building, folks are pretty interested.
Who is your ideal client?
Anybody that's looking to start taking control of their health, anybody that just walked away from their doctor's office and had a blood lab and he said, "I'll call you if something's wrong." And they say, well, actually, no, that's not the world. That's not the engagement that I want to have with my own health. Early adopters probably are folks that are tending more towards the biohackery type world, right? The folks that are into fitness, into their own health, they're actually paying attention. They've already made the intellectual shift. As you said, like the first clicks have happened, that, my doctor may not be the most comprehensive way for me to be in control of my own health.
So I understand here I'm a new patient. I'm listening to this podcast right now. Like, this really seems interesting to me. I'm curious. So walk me through what that process looks like for me. So I'm curious. I go to your website.
You could, yeah, sagehealthspan.com. You can go to that website, check it out, look at stuff there. Everything's happening through an app, though. So you got to go download an app for your iPhone, and we'll walk you through it. We'll make it really easy. Hopefully you have some old blood tests. I'd much rather start with found data, right? That's the cheapest way to get started. If you have a blood test, we'll scan them all in for free. I'll never look at them. The data always stays on your phone. Actually, that's one of the things that we're really focused on, is privacy. So the AI model, the mini LLM, and even the machine learning model is actually all happening on your device. It's never sending data to me unless you give me permission to do that. But you can scan in all your old blood labs. It'll actually never leave the privacy of your own phone. It'll take all that data, it'll consolidate it, it'll structure it, and it'll hopefully help you understand it. Like, what are the things you should be focused on in any of the labs that you've had over the years? And what's changed, really? Because that's what matters, right? Let's say, you take someone like me, I'm 49 years old, and, I'm a little bit, more tired than I was. Sort of CrossFit's not as easy as it used to be. So, you think to yourself and you're talking to the other guys at CrossFit, like, okay, is my testosterone low, high? What is it? So you go get a blood lab, and I get my blood lab back, and probably getting too personal here, but like my testosterone was 410. That's not a high number, but it's not a particularly low number, right? It's kind of low to middle. Is that a problem? Well, I don't know. Fortunately, I actually have some of my old blood labs that I can look at, and I can see the trend over time. And ironically, when I was 24 years old, it was also 410. So actually, no, testosterone isn't the problem. I'm just getting a little bit older, probably need to sleep a little bit better, and probably need to focus on my stress. Like, that's really reassuring to me to have that knowledge. And let's say it wasn't good. Well, then I can help you actually ask the right questions of your doctor so that you can take the next steps.
Step one is just working with data that's already there for free, giving you just a little bit of insight. Step two, the idea of start digging deeper in whatever direction you might want to dig. And then if you are going to go see the doctor, help prepping you. I love that idea. I'd never considered that at all. That concept that it preps you to go talk to your doctor. Here's the things you should be asking and talking to them about. So I think for sure that's one of the biggest things. I mean, healthcare these days, they have to get tons of people in and out quickly. That is simply the model. It's nothing against them. They didn't create the model. They're just trying to make a living in the model.
But there's no doctor that doesn't want to have an answer to your question. So when you ask a hard question to a doctor, if you're getting blown off, and again, I'm not saying this is true of any doctor, but doctors are human beings. They like to have answers about your health. And I bet you half the time when you're getting blown off for asking the hard questions, it's because they actually just don't know the answer and don't want to say, I don't know. What this does is we'll send them an email. You can send them an email before you ever see them. They can actually go do their homework before they see you and hopefully show up with answers to the questions that you want to ask. And we'll make it easier on them. We'll make it easier on you. We'll make sure you're asking the right questions, and we'll make sure that you're actually able to prompt them before you go see them and get your questions answered.
I think this whole thing is amazing. As soon as, I've kind of reached out and looked at what you were doing and heard about everything, I definitely wanted to talk to you and understand more. And I can't wait to kind of see how it develops. We certainly, myself and my wife, will be involved in this as soon as possible. As soon as she gets home, I'm going to tell her and get the ball rolling, and really looking forward to seeing, how everything develops.
It's like, when's the best time to start working on your health? Is yesterday.
Awesome. Well, yes, I'll certainly do my best to get the word out there and get things going. I love what you're doing. I've certainly be very interested in following up and, whatever you tell me within 6 months or so to really, kind of see a lot of this stuff, because I do think that the AI element is just going to be such a game changer.
Just thank you for your time. This was really cool, and I love what you're doing, and I'm really appreciative to be here and give me a forum to get the word out a little bit. And come visit the website and download the app and have a look.
All right. Well, thanks, Brent. It's been great. Thank you for listening to Executing the Vision. If you'd like to be a guest, go to emergelabs.us and click on the podcast page. If you like what you heard, please share the episode and subscribe. Ratings and reviews go a long way to help promote the show. You can find us on Instagram at brad.emergelabs, as well as X, Facebook, and LinkedIn, where we strive to provide valuable information on business and life. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the show and what you'd like to see in future episodes. Thank you again, and have a great day.